All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. This is Walt. Today's special guest is somebody that really, as I look at his history, has achieved incredible things. And yet I get the sense that it's only just the beginning. As I was doing my research and I was looking at our friends in common, I was actually stunned that our paths haven't crossed before. We share so many friends, but that's not unusual considering what Daniel puts across as his own message. He's currently the CEO of 561 Media. He's a merger and acquisition specialist who focuses on taking companies and helping them with growth strategies and helping them achieve their goals. But not only that, he's been through some incredible experiences, starting as an accountant straight out of school, of all things. And then he decided to, I don't know, come across to the light side and become an entrepreneur. So we're going to dive right in with Dan and find out all about how that works. Please welcome to the show the CEO of 561 Media, Mr. Daniel Giordano. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it, man. I always have when I have an opportunity to just kind of share a message and help people, like I'm in. And so I'm glad
Amazing. Amazing. How did that all come to be? Like, let's dive straight in. You've had what you would consider to be a typical, schooling academic background, and you've pivoted to become this kind of leader figure. You've become this a company builder. You've become an empowerer. How did that happen? When did the light go on for you?
well, I think at first, I've been an entrepreneur, pretty much my whole life, right? But I was in the construction industry up until about 1999, right?
Mm,
And in 99, there was something magical that happened. And what that was I was expecting our first child, right?
nice.
And I started to question like my life choices, right? We had already moved. I had sold my first business in 1998. We moved to South Florida after that from New Jersey. And I started to question my life choices, and I happened to be working for, a guy that had a massive exit in the construction space. I was working on his home, and I kind of, looked at him one day and I said, I I was kind of podcasting back then, long before it was called podcasting, but it just
Right.
weren't recording. I was just
Before it was
asking
cool.
questions, right? I was just asking questions, like, because I was curious. Everybody else would go with their hands out, like to get paid, and I would go, "Hey, man, can I, just ask you a question? Like, how did you get where you're at? What did you do for a living? How did you get there?" Right. So I asked this
Nice.
guy a question. It's like, "Is there anything you would do differently?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I would give it all back if I could get my son back."
Whoa.
And I said,
Wow.
"Well, what happened?" And he said, his son had died from alcoholism at the age of 30. He
Mm,
was never home because he was grinding and building his company, and he said he had a $400 million exit. So it was a massive payday, private jet, the whole thing, right? The beautiful home on the beach, multiple homes throughout the world, but didn't have his kid.
wow.
And it just started to really sink, into me that, I grew up with a dad that is an awesome, he's an awesome father, right? But he old school worked to provide for the family. So he was never at my sporting events, never played catch, never. So I started questioning, like, I want to be the dad that gets to be home, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a major pivot point to say, okay, what could I do differently so that I'm not working in the construction space 7 days a week and I could be home with my kids, right? So that was the beginning point of me starting to dabble online in 1999,
Mm,
and figure out some things, in the first started, try to figure out selling, through eBay, through selling through Amazon, right? Trying different things until I stumbled across affiliate marketing, right?
mm.
And that was my first home run. It took me about a year and a half to kind of dabble around, a lot of late nights. We didn't have all the fancy tools we have today, right?
Yeah.
Where where I could watch a video on how to do just about anything, right? So I just banged my head against the wall till I figured some things out. And that's what kind of led me down the path of the internet marketing world and lead generation and being able to be partners in a personal development and leadership training company for 10 years. Then always had, some form of an agency that I was involved in.
Nice. Wow, amazing. I find the pivot with children is such a common thread as well. I remember when my daughter was born, thinking to myself, I was the ultimate employee at that point. I was in at the office at 7 in the morning, and I was the last to leave at night, thinking that I was doing the right thing in inverted commas. And then my daughter was born, and I gallantly took 3 days off, 3 whole days when my daughter was born. And the morning that I went back to work, I dropped some croissants off to my wife, who was still in hospital, and I got to my desk, the point that had been my fulfillment for the last decade. And I said, "What the hell am I doing here while my wife's in hospital?" And literally, that was the day that I started dabbling internet marketing as well. So interesting. Something that you said just then is fascinating for me, which is we didn't have all the fancy tools that we have today. And we couldn't just watch a video and find out how to do stuff. I genuinely, I look at my kids now and I look at this kind of opportunity that we have at this point in time, and I'm stunned by the fact that we can on demand learn any topic in any depth that we ever want to. How do you adapt in that space where learning is so quick, and how do you find that that drives your business these days?
Yeah, that great question. So I think, the biggest thing is, there's so many different things, as you know, in the internet marketing world, and you could have shiny object syndrome and be
Mm,
taken down an entire rabbit trail, right? So for me, it's like I always look at, anything that I do is like, okay, how fast can I execute on what I'm learning, right? So even if I'm reading a book, like it's like, okay, I'm not just reading for the sake of saying I read the book. I want to actually apply stuff that I'm learning, right? So anything that I'm watching, anything that I'm like, it could even come down to like movies and or a short or anything. Like I'm always thinking in terms of, okay, I love the way that plot twist was. How could I tie that into marketing, right? And share a message about that, right, to inspire people, right? So there's always something to learn, but more importantly, it's like learning without doing is not learning, right? To me,
mm.
it's like and I learned this interestingly enough in the martial arts. In the beginning when I was a white belt and the master would tell me, he's like, hey, do you want to teach class tonight? And I'd be like, teach? What am I going to teach? Like, I don't know anything yet, right? He's like, well, you know more than the guy that started today, right? And so for the longest time, I wouldn't actually teach because I was like, I felt like I didn't know enough, right? Then finally got to a point where it was like, okay, teach. And you learn by actually doing and teaching, right? You actually learn more at another level because you get to interpret and see how people are responding to what
Yeah.
you're saying. So it's the same thing in anything I watch or anything I do is like, how do I actually, apply what I'm doing, apply what I'm learning, what I'm seeing and my interpretation of it, right? And then more importantly, get some feedback on it, right? So whether that's running an ad campaign or a sales process or hiring people or acquiring businesses, whatever it is, I'm always putting myself in the place of like, okay, I'm not going to learn by just talking about it, right? Or just watching a video on it, right? So many people, you see that in the internet marketing where a lot of people will watch or buy courses and then never even finish them, right? Or never actually apply what they're learning in the process.
I've
So,
heard it said you don't get better at push-ups by watching a YouTube video on how to do push-ups, right? Like
right, right.
you need to hit the floor, you need
Sadly
to get it
enough,
done.
right? So,
It's interesting. So has this become a philosophy for you, Dan? Like you learn and implement. This is your magic trick?
yeah, I mean that's the key thing is like just taking action, right? Is
Mm,
is 99% of the battle. I mean, so many times we've had, we're all guilty of it, saying we're going to do something and then for whatever reason we don't do it, right? Sometimes it's not in alignment with what we truly want. Or sometimes it's, a distraction because we see somebody else doing it, thinking I could do that, right? Or I should be doing that, right? The reality is it might not be one of your core strengths or might not even be the thing you should be doing, right?
mm.
But when you're really clear on what you want, I always kind of gauge it based on, okay, is this in alignment with my bigger vision, right? And I eliminate a lot of stuff, right? And by a lot of wasted time because I won't focus on things that are just going to distract me, right? And I think one of the key things, and I shared this with Johan a few weeks ago, um, last year was a rough year, right? And
Mhm.
because I lost two dear friends and mentors,
Mm.
right? And these were like really close guys to me, right? That through the past like 15, 20 years. And one of the, they both wanted to buy businesses with me last year. We started working on things together and they both independently, unfortunately, had, ailments that they didn't survive from. And it started to really put myself in a perspective because I didn't take it well. Like I actually took it harder than I thought I was going to, right?
Right.
And part of it was because I saw dreams died with people that really had like they had great lives, right? They were great men, great family guys, but it's like they weren't done yet. They still wanted to do something bigger. They wanted to be part of something bigger and impact more people, right? And those dreams died with it, right?
Mm.
And so for me, I always think, as I started thinking back to like the different conversations I had with them and where we could have executed faster, right? And it created a sense of urgency for me to say, okay, I'm only working on things that are bigger vision, bigger things that I get to influence others, influence the influencers, and just really, have a bigger splash. And it's not about me. It's just about my level of wanting to be fulfilled in the sense of like, I feel like I actually am making a difference and actually, leveraging the time because we all waste time, right? Doing stuff that may not be that important, right? And we're not here for an unlimited amount of time. We all have an
Mm.
expiration date. And for me, it, kind of hit home real quick. I was like, man, I was like, am I prepared? Right. Like, how am I showing up every day? What could I be doing differently? Right. What could I be doing more, to really empower people and help them see, they could be better, better involved with their families, better involved with helping others, connecting with people around the globe and inspiring them with their skill sets and helping them, achieve whatever it is, their product or service is.
Wow.
So, yeah. So for me, that just really, was an eye-opening, year for me. And it really helped me get rid of some things that were distracting me, right, as well, right, on a whole nother level of like, literally, I remember the one day I came into the office and I literally wiped off my whiteboard, probably half the deals that were on there. Like not doing this, not doing this, not doing this. This is not in alignment. This is not aligned. These are distractions, right? Even down to the number of conversations I have on different opportunities.
Wow.
I'm very strategic with where I put my time. And the problem with that is I'm the type of person who wants to help everybody,
Right.
right?
Sure.
So I won't say no to people, right? But when it comes to like something that might absorb my time in the sense of, just putting time into, maybe, looking at possibly acquiring a business is like the first question I ask myself is like, what is the size of the business? What's the potential? And I'll start weeding through, checking off some boxes, and I'll say, you know what, doesn't fit the criteria of what I'm looking for, right? But if I know somebody, I'll point them in the right direction, right?
I love that. I'd like to dive into the M&A side of things a
Right.
little bit more. But before I do, what's interesting so far for me is that you had a pivotal moment with this colleague mentor who exited the
Mm.
construction industry and lost his son. You pivoted at that point to take charge of your own life, which I think is amazing. To be able to then say, what can I do in the confines of my own abilities and skills to create income and life that's going to allow me to live by my own choices? Amazing, fascinating. And then like last year, again, you had a pivotal moment or realization where you suddenly understood that life is short, that there are dreams that need to be executed before death takes us, so that things are fulfilled. These are kind of massive moments in your life, but there's a comment that you made that I just want to drill into, and you said more than once on this call already, aligning with the bigger vision. Can I just ask you, Dan, before we get into the techniques of your agency, of affiliate marketing, of mergers and acquisitions, can I just ask you right now, what vision do you have for Dan Giordano, for your life, for yourself, and those around you right now?
That's a great question. So I can tell you, like in 2019 was when I actually shut down an agency I had, right? Because I felt like, all right, I'm called to something bigger and I just don't know what it is yet, right?
Mm,
Like there's something I need to be doing and I just need to flush out. And unfortunately, the world shut down in 2020. So it gave me some time, right, to really focus in on like, okay, let me go down this path of acquisitions and see where it leads. And
mm,
one of my mentors in that space basically said to me one day, he's like, Dan, stay in your lane, right? You have this amazing skill set of being able to build rapport with anybody on the planet and for the
mm,
right reasons, right? You have this amazing sales skill set. You've sold millions of dollars in training, coaching services over the past 20 plus years, right? And you have this marketing background that you've generated millions of leads. Why would you not stay in that industry? And it's like, because my perspective at the time was like I needed to be in the agency running it, right?
right. Yeah.
And now, acquiring this agency, and other ones I'm involved in, like I'm not involved in mainly the day to day. Like I don't know all the clients. I'm not involved in, like I'm just really super high level, helping with strategic partnerships, and growing through acquisition is where I focus my time and effort. And so what that's led to was, I was thinking in the tens of millions, right, when I started this journey in 2019. Then it raised the bar to 100 million plus. Now I'm part of $1 billion roll up, right? That that when I look at that, they put me on the board last year. The end of the year, they nominated me to be on the board to represent the investors, and I was like, um, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. I was
Doesn't
like,
sound like it to
and I was
me.
like, I've made it, right? I was like, I've made it, right? But I wasn't thinking that way initially. It's like, you become who you associate with. So for me, it was like, okay, I want to hang around people that are much smarter than me, right? And which is most people, right? And 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 really, like, I just genuinely want to be part of something bigger in the sense of, like, it's not about the dollar signs, it's about the impact and the ripple effect. Because I often say is like, I was like, okay, a lot of times you'll hear people say it's like, well, you know, why is it always just about the money in business, right? And it's like, it's not, that's how we measure things, right, in business.
Mm.
But the reality is, like, how much more impact if you had more zeros, right, behind those numbers, right? How much more impact can you have, right? So for me, it's about, like, doing things from, I'm cause driven now. At some point in my life, I shifted. I've always been some level of cause driven, but, like, some point in my life, I shifted to really being cause and, and impact driven. And one of those things that really hit me was like, okay, the people I get to work with, the people I get to employ, the people I get to be around, like, not everybody has a great work environment, right?
Mm.
Not everybody is, in alignment with what they should be doing in their life, right? So some of the things I've been doing is like really making sure people are in the right seat, right? And really making sure that they're buying into the vision and it's in alignment with their vision. So for me, it's about this bigger play, being part of something that I've never been part of, to the point now where, we have an investment fund that just started this week with another, another partner that I started that with, right? Guys, saying is like, we're going to raise, significant amount of money in 6 months. And I honestly have no clue how to do that, right? Like, I mean, I know how to go talk to people about raising money, right? But at that level that we're playing at, it only happened because I genuinely just showed up, connecting with people, asking questions, and eventually it led down this path because I put in the time, right?
Wow.
And I think so many people fall short, right? Because they don't put in the time. It's kind of like the comment you said about push-ups, right? I always say this is like, you're not going to get abs by not going to the gym, right? You got to do the
Right.
reps,
Yeah.
right?
It's again, the synergies are huge. I remember I've got my black belt in that little counter right there behind me with the
Uh,
3 little stripes on it, which I'm extremely proud of. And I still remember walking into the dojo as a white belt, not even a white belt, dressed in sweats and a t-shirt because
right,
I didn't have my uniform yet.
right.
And I remember, man, this changed my life. And it's exactly the same message as you just said. It changed my life. I remember there was this guy at the front of the room. His name was Jamie. We ended up being strong, firm friends, still are to this day. And Jamie was already a black belt. And I watched this guy, honestly, Dan, he could kick the doors off a car. You know what it's like when you see somebody who's just driven and skilled in this space. Like, this man was like, oh, amazing, just incredible. And when they said spar up, partner up, literally first day in the gym, I headed straight for Jamie and I like bowed to him and he looked at me and he said, really? And I said, hell yeah, man. If I want to be where you are, I got to train what you do. And he's like, respect, don't go easy on me. We partnered up. And as I said, we became firm friends. But what was interesting after that sparring session, and this is the thing that changed my life, bro. He said to me, I asked him a question and I didn't even know I was looking for a mentor or how this would work. But I said to Jamie, how did you get here, man? How did you get here? I'm a fat, overweight, mid-20s, completely out of touch with myself male, right? How did you get there, 40 years old, able to kick the doors off a car, an absolute weapon? How did you get here, man? And his answer changed my life, dude. He said, I just kept showing up to training.
Hmm. Yeah.
I just kept showing up. I just kept showing up. I just kept showing up. I just kept coming to training and doing the reps. And exactly as you said, you just happen to keep showing up and ask the right questions. And suddenly you're in a room creating amazing things and raising capital and doing impactful work. Now, Dan, I just want to drill in for a sec, if I can, man. Um, a lot of us in our entrepreneurial journey, it feels like to me, we get to this point where we say, it's not about the money. Now it's about the impact. And it's almost like this is, to me anyway, the reward we get for the reps we've done is that we kind of achieve this place where it feels just the right thing to do. But I'm also extremely conscious of the fact that our audience, the majority of people who are starting on this entrepreneurial journey, no matter where it finds them, we all start with this concept of freedom, right? I want to break free. I want to do my own thing. We get into the valley of, holy crap, it's a lot harder work than I ever believed it was ever going to be possible. We get into, maybe breaking through that into, now we're starting to get some runs on the board and some wins. But at what point for you did it get away from being about the money? You know, those first affiliate marketing campaigns, that first dollar you made online, that first Facebook ad that return to positive ROAS. Like there was the times when it was about the money. And
Right.
like piece by piece, the same as getting a black belt, you've done those numbers to the point where now it's not about the money anymore. But the vast majority of the audience, it's about the money and it's about what they can do. How do we help an entrepreneur? How do we help somebody who is wanting to take charge of their own life? How do we help them understand that whilst it's about the money right now, and you need to be able to put runs on the board and create value to do that, it's also about turning that dial up in a wider thing and creating more for humanity than you're taking out. Like, how does that journey happen in your mind?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, right? And we could take that a number of different ways, right? So I think the biggest thing is when I look at yes, we measure business success by money, right? And yes, we all need to make money to pay the bills, keep the lights on, and provide for our families, right? But I think, you mentioned earlier before we started around, is there anything off limits, right? Or anything we don't want to talk about? And I said I'm an open book, right? So I'm gonna share something that may help some people, right? One of
Mm,
them is, making sure you partner with the right people if you're going to have partners, right?
mm,
So one of my mentors that passed earlier, last year, he told me this, and then this was when I was going through the partnership issue, right? He told me, Dan, no partners. If you're going to have a partner, you need to have a clear exit plan in place, right? Of exactly what's going to happen in writing, right? This way, there's no because eventually somebody's going to want a divorce, right? In the business, right? So something changes, somebody wants to do something different, right? Family stuff, whatever the thing is, right? So I went through a partnership issue that there were some integrity issues that came up, right? That I just was not aligned with, right? And this is where the shift was for me around money because I walked away from $2 million, right? And it was, yes, I needed the money. I wanted the money, right? But I was not willing to sell my soul for the money, right?
mm,
And it was a shift for me that made me realize that, okay, I have the knowledge to be able to create whatever I want. And everyone listening to this has that ability to create whatever you want. And especially now more than ever, with all of the people that are sharing messages out there to help people, and you pick your lane based on your skill sets or the things you want to enhance skill sets around, like literally anything's possible, right? So for me, it was a shift around, okay, I don't need anybody else. I can do this on my own, right? I can start over, right? And it was more about peace of mind for me to know that I was doing the right thing. That again comes back to being in alignment. I often share this message around, if you think about a snowman, right? The head knowledge, the heart, knowledge, and then connected to source or God, right? When all of that's in alignment, right? Magic happens. You literally, the power of intention is, infinite when it comes to you being in alignment. So for me, when I realized that I can create whatever I want, yes, it's not perfect. There's issues that come up. There's challenges that happen. Nothing ever goes as planned in business and in life, right? There's always some weird stuff that happens, right? But when you have that, understanding of what you really want, knowing what you want, I often share this, know what you want, right? Why do you want it is more important, right? The why behind it is going to be the emotion that's going to make you want to get up out of bed. How I know I'm on the right track is I get up early. If I am off track, I want to sleep in.
mm,
I don't even want to deal with my day sometimes,
yeah.
right? I know that it's like, all right, there's going to be things I have to do that I don't want to do. But when I've been involved in projects or, different businesses that really weren't exciting to me, right? Like real estate, right? Real estate, working with real estate agents, right? In the lead gen industry, right? I squashed an entire division of my company because I was like, I don't like realtors, right? This is boring. I can't spin it. I can't spin it anyway because it's like, yeah, I could say I'm helping people find their dream home. That's not exciting to me,
Didn't
right?
wash. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so really, helping you understand that, it's more important to understand why why is it that you really want this, and really drilling deep into it, because a lot of times people will give you the surface level answer,
Mm,
like I want to make 10K a month or whatever the number is, right? And I want to be able to start an online business, or I want to start, this thing that I want to do, right? That I want to make this, right? Then you really need to understand, why is that number important to you? What does it mean to you, right? Why do you actually want that? Because, we see other people doing stuff, right? And then we try and mimic, or we think we can do what they're doing. And this is the reason why, things like network marketing, most people fail in it, right, is because they don't realize you need some level of communication skill set, some type of business acumen, right? Some type of, ability to be able to connect with people, believe in the product that you're selling, right? Whatever the thing is, whether it's that industry or any others, it's the same thing, right? You have to have that belief. And the
Mm.
big thing around this is understanding the belief, confidence, and certainty in what you're doing, right? And if you don't have that in what you're attempting to do, right, align yourself with somebody that does, that can believe for you, and you can borrow their expertise to be able to help get you over the edge, so that you build that belief and certainty in what you're doing, right?
And
A
their
lot of
passion,
times
to be able to borrow their passion, let
yeah,
them put the
yeah.
fuel in your tank. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, and a lot of times people just don't do that, right? Because they're trying to figure it all out on their own, especially us guys. We're a little thick-headed, thinking we can
Mm.
do it all ourselves, right? And it's hard for guys to open up, right? And just really, be real about what's going on for them, right? And being able to like, understand that like, okay, I can do this, right? But it's much faster if we do it together, right? Or if I could do it with someone that's been down the path already.
Getting that kind of mentorship or that sounding board. I mean, it's, as you said, it's real tough, especially for guys who are like, buckle down, work harder, turtle in a shell. I'm just going to nut this thing out. Whereas sometimes it's better, not sometimes, 100% of the time, it's better to reach out. Don't
Right.
go in, reach out and expand your zone of communication. So Dan, let's get technical for a second. Do you still do affiliate marketing?
I don't do as much affiliate marketing anymore, right? There's days I sit there and think like, knowing what I know now, like I was sharing this the other day with somebody, I was like, man, with all the tools and stuff we have today, like all the social proof stuff, like, I would have done 10 times what I did back then. And I was really successful back then when I was
Mm.
in the affiliate marketing space when I first started. But like, it's just amazing with the stuff you have today, right? That can help accelerate that path, right? Mostly what I do now is I'm working on obviously the core agency, and then acquiring other businesses, strategic partnerships, consulting for equity, and part of the investment group, raising capital, and mainly focused on acquiring other businesses that are in the marketing space, specifically
Cool.
Web3
So
space.
let's focus on that then. So we don't call it affiliate marketing anymore, but now if you see a product that's amazing, you might shout it out.
Right,
That's
refer it.
great.
Yeah.
That's your version of it these days.
Right.
Um, so let's focus on the agency. 561 Media. Who do you look
Mhm.
for? Who do you work with? What do you do for them?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So being that when I acquired it, right, we have had clients, they have clients all over the board, right? So everything from the largest stone crab distributor in the country to, impact window company, right?
Wow.
So obviously not one specific vertical. It truly is a local branded marketing company, right? And a pretty affluent area, right? So we have some really interesting clients across the board, right? So it's mainly B2B, right? So businesses that are B2B, and mainly focused on either they need really good design, messaging, and paid ads, is a core strength of what we do here, right? So helping them generate leads, inbound, right, for their teams, and some e-commerce clients as well related to that. But it's an interesting thing because it's like it truly is a full stack agency. And if you talk to the guys that a lot of times in the acquisition space, like we want to avoid full stack agencies. We really want to have specialized knowledge type agencies, right? So whether they're a YouTube agency, a Google Ads agency, right, or design, whatever their core competency is, right? But if we had to narrow it down, our core thing is design and paid ads, right?
Okay.
Is the main thing.
And if you bought 561 Media today in its
Mhm.
current state, if you literally just put the check on the table, it had cleared, and today was the first day that you own the company, what do you
Mm.
do now? What's your next move for this business?
That's a great question. So recently, what's interesting is like they haven't been in my space, right? Say on the coaching, mentoring, training industry, right? So it's all new to my partner that's part of this, that he's actually ran the day-to-day here for 8+ years. Um, and so I actually recently brought in an ops guy that is in the coaching space as well. And he's streamlining everything for us, but he also has industry experience around high level and automations and custom values that actually build out, everything from 3-day challenges, 5-day challenges, and everything in between. He's, built out the entire funnel for it. And we partnered on it and brought him in-house to support everything we're doing. So we're adding a coaching side to it. So, and that's really where like I was going to say I thrive, right? But I'd be more excited about transformational type work than just generating lead for the local, impact window company, right? I mean, it's all fine and dandy, but there's that, and then really consulting for equity type deals, right? So we actually, any of the larger clients, what I'm transitioning into is we're taking a percentage of equity of the company. They're still paying their retainers and higher end fees for our build outs. But we'll give them a strategic partner rate, but now we own a part of the company. So we are truly partners with, some of our clients now. And that's
Wow.
really where we prefer to play, right?
So I think that that's an incredible path for an agency as well, and that gives you just incredible long-term strengths and reliability and growth and legacy and like all those amazing words that are at the top end of the entrepreneur's world. How did you transition into consulting for equity? Like, at what point did you go, I can actually, I'm not just running Facebook ads for these guys. I'm coming in, taking a piece, and we're running it together. Like, when did that first kind of happen for you, and how has that grown since then?
Yeah, great. That's a good question. So I think the key thing is there's always been this strategic partnership model that I've had,
Mm,
right? So most of the larger opportunities that, whether it's tens of millions or multi-millions, any of those types of businesses that I've been part of, I've always been brought in from the back end, lead gen, marketing, back end type CMO, call it fractional CMO type scenario. But I would always come in and get a percentage of revenue, right?
mm,
And or some percentage of the company, right? And so what realistically, like if you have one of those, like an example would be what the one company I had is like the deal was, back then it was, they paid me $5,000 a month and gave me 20% of gross revenue, right? And at its height, it was doing about 7 million a year, right? So, it was a nice payday, right? And it worked really well for 10 plus years, right?
wow.
Then I took that same model into different, arenas that I got to work in. Is like not every client is that a fit for, right? It's got to be really somebody like, and trust, somebody that you see that you can add tremendous value, right? But I believe that it's a huge opportunity for marketing agencies because most, and you see this being in the agency related space as well, is, most agencies, they're technicians, right? They're
Mm,
not true
mhm.
business owners. They might be like a Facebook ads guy, might be a technician based on like, hey, I can set up ads or I can build out funnels or whatever the thing is they're mainly really good at, but they're not truly understanding the businesses holistically, right? And that's where like the agencies that I've had, it's always been like a consultative type approach where I could actually help the business from, it's not just about, this from lead gen, right? Is the, generating a lead is only as good as the person that answers the phone, right? Or the
Right.
funnel that they're going through, right?
Mm,
So if the messaging is off, or if the salesperson sucks, right? Or if the offer isn't really great, like there's a lot of variables to converting a qualified lead, right?
yeah.
So I've always looked at everything holistically, and when I'm talking to a business owner, I'm looking for opportunities to say, hey, what would it take for us to strategically partner, right? If I'm really interested in it, right? It's like if I see like there's huge value in us doing that, this way we can put all our efforts and our resources and our team on it, versus just selling a retainer, right? Because in the agency world, a lot of retainer type models, they don't last more than like 90 days,
It's the
and it's
first
usually
expense that every
because they're a
business is
technician,
looking to cut as soon as they can. Um,
right?
do you strategically say no? So let me qualify that question. You've got this model now where consulting for equity is just an incredible position to be in. Do you open the door with that thought? As in, this is a brand new business, you've never spoken to the owner before. The first thing I'm going to look for is a piece. Or do you suss them out? Do you do some work for them first? And I want to add to that question. So do you strategically look for that from day one? Do you say no? Do you literally get inside of a organization and say, no way do I want a piece of this? And at the same time, do you have business owners coming to you saying, please, Dan, I've heard you do this. This is my company. I'll give you some if you help me. And you say, not my thing. Like, is it now, are you in a position where saying no to things is more important than saying yes?
Absolutely. Right. So like learning to say no, like I mentioned earlier, is like I'm the type that I really want to help everybody. Right. But the
Mm,
reality is there's only so much time in a day. I try and at least point people in the right direction if I can help them and they're not a fit for us. Right. But I have said no to several people. Even with an agency local agency that was trying to sell to us recently, is like, they came in trying to pitch me on why we should buy their business. And I was like, you know what, this is a distraction right now, right?
Right. There you
I
go.
don't,
It's
it would be
progress.
cool to have you because you have some interesting things, but like really not interested, right?
Interesting.
Whereas, maybe a year ago I might have jumped on it, right?
Mm,
Or a couple years ago, right? And really like learning to say no to people, right? Because this goes back to that alignment issue we were talking about earlier, right? It's like if
mm.
you know what you want, why you want it, and you're clear on what your goals are and targets are that you're shooting for, right? It's very easy for you to just look at and say, does this fit, right, with what I want to do? And I'm really looking for, an opportunity to create a win-win. So I won't lead with like, I want to get a percentage of your company, right? Like, I really want to see, like, is this somebody I would want to work with? The first thing
Yeah.
I look for in every sales conversation, and I've had thousands of them at this point, right? I worked with, you probably know Ryan Lebeck. I worked with him for 8 years, right? And so on the back end of his, mentoring program, I had thousands of conversations with people. And the same thing, what I would say all the time, is like, listen, I don't do this for the money. It's an impact project for me. Like, I really enjoy having these conversations, right? So first thing I'm looking for is, do I like you?
Right. Fantastic.
Would I invite you over for dinner? Right?
Would
Is
I
this
hang
somebody,
out with you on the weekend by choice if money wasn't a thing? Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure, Walt, you've had some people you've worked with that you would probably rather not work with,
And
right?
some that you haven't had a chance to that you'd love to.
Right,
It is
exactly.
that game of putting the right people around the table for you.
Yeah.
So Dan, how many companies do you have an ownership stake in right now?
Right now there's one, two, three, four, five, right?
Five companies
Five.
that you have an ownership
And then
piece of.
I'm part of a roll up in the coaching space specifically that we have there's 7 companies in that one as well. Right.
Amazing. And that's the one that you're saying is the $1 billion roll up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
How's your team? Like what's a day in the life of Dan Giordano now? Like it feels to me that having that level of ownership in that many companies, you must be like dashing left and right trying to keep up with stuff. But coming back to our first part of the conversation where you designed your business and your life to suit what you do, I'm kind of prefacing the fact that that might not be the case. So what's a day in the life look like for you now?
Yeah. So I'm very strategic with my calendar, right? So I will block out a lot of time, right? And I'll be very strategic with the conversations I have, especially after what I mentioned earlier about my
Mm,
friends passing last year. I'm
yeah.
just very cautious of my calendar. And one of the things I like force myself to do, right? So recently my son started playing flag football, right? And then they were short coaches and I didn't want to coach this year. So I was like, I'll just attend. And they're like, we're short coaches. We really need a coach. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll finally committed to do it. Right. And then one of the things I said to myself is like, okay, it's, about 9 to 10 weeks, right, of my commitment 3 times a week, right? And it's not around the corner from me. It is a little bit of a haul, right? I'm an hour from home right now, right? Where my office is, and a half hour west from me is where football is, right?
Right.
So those 2 nights out of the week are a haul, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like a commitment. It's like, okay, one, it gets me to unplug from everything, and I just get to be present with my kid and the kids on the team, right? It forces me to unplug. But also like during the day when I'm working, like I don't physically have to be here.
Mm,
Like this business, one of the main reasons I acquired it was simply because my partner Michael is a beast, right? Like he's been running the day to day for years. If I didn't come in, we'd be fine, right? Right. The reality is I have a much bigger vision for what we're doing here, right?
yeah.
And I want to be here, right? It gets me to unplug from, just keeping, work from home, which I haven't had. I've worked from home for 25 years, right?
Yeah.
So being in an office is weird. Having clients come into the office is weird for me, right?
Yeah.
So really, guarding my time, making sure I'm home at a reasonable hour every night, right? Except for today, because we have a little bit of a time difference where we're at, right? So,
Appreciate it.
so
Thank you.
right, but that's all good, right? And just really like saying, okay, here's what I'm going to do this week, and here's what I'm not. There's going to be sometimes you have to grind and put in more time, right?
Mm,
And there's going to be some sacrifices at times, right? It's just part of the game, right? But there's also times where it's like, okay, why am I really doing this, right?
yeah.
I'm doing all of this for my family, for the people I get to work with, right? And being part of that bigger vision to be able to live the life I want to live. Like right now I'm in a phase of a 3 to 5 year plan, right? That's very clear on this roll up strategy and the other things I'm doing. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit of a grind season right now, right? So I'm hosting events, I'm doing things that are a little different than I would normally do.
So
So,
you're a cog in the wheel rather than I don't know, a host of the engine. Um, do you find yourself relying on the management strengths of your team,
um,
or are you
right.
the doer?
Yeah, no, I'm not the doer, right?
Interesting.
I'm the connector. I'm the guy that has the vision, the strategy. I've gotten really good somehow with, what's interesting is the conversations that I've had with people over the years. I've strategically in my mind figured out how to build a power team, right? Without actually even thinking I was going to do that someday. Like, so
That's
even
interesting.
the core people that work here, the new hires that we've had, have come in specifically because I've built amazing relationships, right, with people over the years, and I see where they fit. Like my operations guy, like just it's like a godsend, right? Because that's not my strength, right, right. But also like realizing that like okay, what I'm building is a Delta team for integration when we acquire other businesses, so that he has everything streamlined and we could duplicate, rinse, and repeat what we've built here, right?
Wow. So if
Yeah,
you
and
had
those.
a Thanos glove snap moment and your entire team disappeared,
Mhm.
would your ops guy be your first hire?
Um, I'd say my sales guy would be my first hire.
Nice. Okay. So sales guy's first hire, right? You got to get revenue through the door. So
Right.
sales guy's going to be your first hire. Who's your next key points? Like the chessboard's just been wiped. You got
Yep.
to literally rebuild.
On the
Who
fulfillment
are you
side,
looking for?
yeah, yeah. Second person would be the fulfillment person, right? Somebody that could actually deliver what we're
Sales through
selling.
the door, keep the
Yeah,
customers happy. Cool. So
right.
sales number one, fulfillment number two.
Yep. And then there would be various subsets of like maybe a paid ads person, if depending on the service that we're core service, right? Right
Yep.
now with this model, it'd be a designer, graphic designer, and then a paid ads person,
So
right? Would
someone
be
to
the core.
fulfill the orders that are coming through the door. Got
Right.
it. Yep. And at what point would you feel comfortable to step back into higher level strategy?
Um, I would say knowing what I know now, I tend to be the bottleneck, right? And I think this is a lot of times business owners, we all struggle with this where we
Mm,
feel like we do it the best, so we need to do it, all right, or we need to do it all, or we wear too many hats, right? And letting go is one of the things that like because I'm perfectly capable of running ads. I've run tens of millions of dollars of ad spend over the years. But like I actually recently set up a campaign, just to test my skill sets, right? Last week.
keep
And
yourself
I'm
sharp.
like, I actually kind of enjoy it, right? Like I
Mhm.
don't enjoy finding the
Danger.
pixel and all that stuff, right? Right. But I do enjoy like certain aspects of the psychology behind it. It was like just putting myself in the mindset of the person that's viewing the ad because I view it this way. The ads I place have the ability to change somebody's life,
Yeah.
right? So really, when I get to do that, it's like it ties in again with what fulfills me, what motivates me, what inspires me to do what I do, right? So the key things would be like definitely I think I could step out at any time, and I think I would step out much faster, knowing what I know now.
Mm,
Because I know that like when I walk out the door, if I didn't come back in here, for months, right, it still would run and still be profitable, and still be growing, right, without me, right? And now that's one of the big things we're doing with the new ops guy is installing, the overall new operating system because it really didn't have a lot of the components you and I would know, right? So we've been building all of that out the past month or two, getting
amazing.
streamlined meetings in place, building the team, like all the things that are important to really be able to scale and take it to the next level with where we're going.
I love it. Dan, I'm super grateful of your time and appreciative of the fact that you've got an hour drive home. Thank you so much for sticking around and spending some time with me. So I'm going to make the most use of these last few questions. So what is your 80-year-old self going to tell you that they're proud of you for? And and subsequently as a follow-up question, what is your 80-year-old self going to tell you that you should be doing right now?
Good question. Good questions. Right. So I think if and there's a little slant to this, but I think the biggest thing that I think I would be, where I would be at that age, right, is saying that like, you you did something that most people would not ever attempt to do, right? And that's to go after something bigger than yourself, right? And just being part of something that became a movement.
Mm.
Um, and just being willing to get on camera and speak, right? And being critiqued, right? I'm sure you've had, naysayers at times posting
No,
content or
never.
posting something negative, right? And, and he never had that, right?
Never.
Um, yeah. And, so for me, knowing that, like, I'm doing what I know I should be doing with my life and impacting others, right? And it ain't perfect. There's always challenges, there's always struggles, there's always self-doubt, there's always stuff that goes on in my head. Am I qualified for this? Right. And I think, like, you're familiar with the movie Rocky, but like, Adrian, I did it, right? Like, it's what I said when I acquired this business to my wife, right?
Mm,
I was like, because I work, this was not an easy deal to get done, right? It was like, it took
mhm.
me 6 months. There was complications, there was all kinds of stuff. But in the end, when I look at it, you know, 30 years ahead of time from now, right, is I'll be looking back saying, okay, well, remember when we acquired that and then we went and did this thing and we went and, had this, massive exit, and look at the number of people we impacted, look at how we took care of our employees, right? And, I think about this often, and I'm sure you probably heard this, right? It's not about, and I can't remember, I heard somebody say a different spin on this last week, and it was interesting to me, because it's not just about what people say at your funeral, right? It's like, what are they saying about you right now?
Right. When you're not in the room.
Yeah, because, if you're dead, who cares what they're saying, right?
Right.
Right. But like, you want people to at least be inspired that you made an impact, right?
Mm,
But really thinking about like how you show up, and what's impactful for me is like, I can make a post about hosting an event here at my office and have 20, 30 people show up. Right. That to me tells me is like, okay, I'm adding some value to people. Often we doubt ourselves, right? And, I just look at it as, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And when I'm that age, right? Looking at where I'm at right now, like, my kids have asked me, when are you going to retire? I say, I am retired. There's no such thing as retirement. Retirement's a lie, right? Like, retirement is, like, to me, doing what I do. Like, I would do this if I had $1 billion exit today, I would still be doing this. I might take a
amazing.
week or two off, right?
Yeah.
But I'm the type that, I don't know about you, but like, if I go on vacation after like 3 days, I'm like,
Yeah, you're
I
itchy. You got to
I want
get
to go
back into
home.
it. Love it.
It's like,
So last two questions. So I'm going to come back because we didn't get an answer to the 80-year-old. So I've got two more questions for you, Dan. So the 80-year-old has given you some great advice. They're proud. The 80-year-old Dan is proud of you for the things that you've done and the vision that you have and the things you're about to do. But what advice does your 80-year-old self have for you right now, telling you the things you need to do between now and then?
ooh, well, between now and then, I mean, the key thing is some of the stuff we talked about already is showing up every day and doing what's required, being willing to do the work, right? And being willing to ask for help, right? Sooner rather than trying to figure it all out on your own, right? And I can say, like, I'd say, if there was a regret at this stage of my life, is the fact that I didn't do it sooner, right?
Wow.
Knowing what I know now, like, I would never do things the same way, knowing what I know now, right? And it's only because I finally made the decision that I was going to do something different. I was going to put myself in rooms that made me uncomfortable, right? So my 80-year-old self, I would say, show up every day, give it 100%, 1,000%, and, do what's required every day to connect with people. I have a simple rule. If I can reach out to 3 people every day, I'm good.
Amazing.
Right. I don't know about you,
Amazing.
but I go into a state of depression if I don't do that. So, so
So no wonder your podcast is called All In. So my last question for you then, coming back to where we started our call, and again, thank you so much for your time, man. I've really enjoyed it. Coming back to that $400 million exit with that colleague in the construction industry, and your question to him was pivotal. I'm going to ask you the same thing.
mhm.
Knowing what you know now, what would you do different?
What I would do differently. I would honestly put myself in a place where I could be more present with people. Cause, like, I don't know about you, right? With all the things we have going on, especially when you're around family and you're trying to detach and decompress, like, it's hard sometimes to slow my mind down. Right. And I really think that, like, when you can take that time, like, I try to do meditation, qigong, I do things to kind of, decompress and unplug, right? There's times I won't even touch my computer, don't even go near it, and just really unplug and be present with the family. Fortunately, I have a 9-year-old that keeps me on my toes, right?
Right.
So, right. But really, I would say, if I could just be present, not only just with the family, but even in conversations, right? Because our minds are racing with things we got to do, things that, are on our plate, things we forgot to do that we're thinking about, like, while we're doing stuff like this. It's like, oh, I forgot to do this, or I got to do that. Like, you could just slow down and take a deep breath, right? And just say, okay, what's most important, right? And remember why you're doing all of this. I would tell myself to like show up and be present in every moment, right? Because, for some of us, we don't know when our last moment is.
And don't let the dreams die when it happens.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Giordano. You can follow Dan. I'm going to make sure his links are everywhere on this podcast with Instagram and Facebook. You can get in touch with Dan. He's he's the host of the All In podcast, and I can think you can understand why. This man is all in, and you'll see him standing on the sidelines of a flag football tournament, I'm sure, with his son coming up. But you can keep in touch with Dan by any of the links below. And of course, there is allinbusinesscoaching.com, which is Dan's primary point of connecting with new business opportunities and new growth. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Giordano, if you are on the treadmill, you're in the car on the way to work, give this man a silent thank you and send it out there to him. Mate, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your wisdom and the chance to hang out with you a little bit. I'm excited for what you've got coming up in the future, and I hope you check back in with us and let us know how that's all going.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. We look forward to seeing you on in the next call.